Welcome to This Week in High School Sports. I'm Teresa Whipple and Steve Willits. Hello to you.
How are you?
I'm good. We're going to say thanks to Red Onion Burgers, our sponsor, before we get started. Sean Richards, thank you so much for bringing us this show every week. We greatly appreciate it, and so do all the athletes that we cover. And speaking of athletes, what do we have for basketball this week?
We had quite a bit going on for basketball. We'll talk about the girls first.
Okay.
It was Linwood versus Edmonds-Woodway on Friday night, a big game. Unfortunately, it may not have lived up to all the hype because we were missing one particular player.
Yeah.
Missy Peterson from Edmonds-Woodway, was all Wesco last year, leading scorer for the Warriors this season. She injured herself the previous game, so she missed this one. However, and as you can attest to, because you were actually at the game, they didn't look like they were going to miss her very much in the first quarter.
Yeah.
They came out hot. They got a huge lead. Linwood came back and outscored them 27-5 in the second quarter. Mm-hmm. They ended up going on to a 67-52 victory over Edmonds-Woodway. Nice win for the Royals. They're now 3-0 in conference play this year, so they're one of four teams in Wesco that's still undefeated. Caprice Boston with 22 points. Kelsey Rogers had 19. She was our adrenaline fundraising player of the game as the game was broadcasted on the Sound Live Sports Network. Adrian Poling had 14, and Madi Ortega had 12 for Edmonds-Woodway. So a nice game for both teams. Warriors are now 8-4 on the season. They're 2-2 in league play, so they're certainly doing all right so far. But again, that would have been a different game, I think, had Missy been there, and we hope that she gets well soon. And rumors are that she might even be back next week. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for her and hope that she's doing well. Glenwood also defeated Marysville-Pilchuck earlier in the week, 63-22. So again, nice week for the Royals and nice two victories.
Yeah.
On the boys' side of things, we had an overtime game that was pretty interesting. We actually had two, but we'll save one for the end here in a minute. But the first game we're going to talk about was Edmonds-Woodway over Linwood on Friday, 73-70. A Linwood team, we've talked about them before this year. They're not last year's Linwood team or the year before that. This is an improved Royals squad. They're not getting as many wins as they wanted, but they're competitive every night, and they showed that on Friday. Edmonds-Woodway had 21 points out of Keaton McKay and 15 out of Noah Becker. And for Linwood, 19 points from Alex Macias and 13 points from Joseph Haptamariam. So again, nice game for both of those teams. Edmonds-Woodway is now 3-1 in conference play on the year, so they're doing very well. And then we're going to get to Meadowdale. Meadowdale Mavericks. Huge victory on Thursday night. This is a team that's struggled all early in the season, trying to pick up some victories, trying to get momentum now that we go into Wesco play. They fall behind Snohomish on Thursday by 14 points midway through the fourth quarter. They come storming back. They're down by 3 right at the buzzer. Mustapha Sonko, the junior, hits a three-pointer to send the game into overtime. They then go on to the 75-69 victory. Sonko has 18 points. Dan Barhoum has 18 points. They're both juniors, both playing very good basketball, and they were both here tonight. Here's the interview we did with those guys. The Meadowdale Mavericks picked up their second conference victory of the season on Thursday night and did so in dramatic fashion. They defeated Snohomish 75-69 in overtime. They needed a buzzer beater at the end of regulation just to get to overtime. And once they got there, they took care of the rest. The two leading scorers for the team that night, both with 18 points each, are here with us right now. Both juniors, Dan Barhoum and Mustapha Sonko. Guys, first of all, congratulations on a nice victory on Thursday, a much-needed victory as we're getting into Wesco play right now. And Dan, I'm going to start off with you. That Snohomish game on Thursday, it's a road game. You're down by something like 14 points with 5 minutes to go. You've already lost your share of games this year, especially early on in the season before we got into league play. Was there ever that mindset of, oh no, here we go again?
Of course not. I believe in my guys. We do whatever it takes during practice. We compete with each other. The thing that really I think separates us from the start of the season to now is we took practice way too lightly, but now practices we compete every day. We have days where we go through drills just to compete, and we just never give up during those competitions. So I think it showed during the game. We won't stop competing, and we'll never give up.
And Mustapha, was there a big adjustment at that point? You're down by 14. You guys need some turnovers. You need to get that basketball back. What did you guys do differently?
It's not what we did differently. It's what we turned up, and that was it was like
The intensity?
Emotions,
Was it?
intensity, yeah. We just like was more aggressive and just pushed harder.
And you told me before we went on air too that you guys made a few defensive adjustments. It sounds like you forced a couple of those turnovers on your own too. Tell me about the adjustment you made on defense and what you were doing.
I was just getting closer into the point guard. I was getting my hands, getting more length in the ball because I have a wide frame. So I was making sure that I was disrupting it, however I could. And we got a couple of picks off of that. So
you get the score down a little bit closer. You get it within 3. We're coming down to the last few seconds of the game. You need a 3-pointer to tie or the game's over. You end up hitting the shot. Walk me through that play. What happened? Who got you the ball? And did you know that the shot was going in?
Okay, so we had a timeout, and we had he was supposed to drive down. Will Schaefer was supposed to drive down, and X was supposed to come off the backside.
That's Xavier Meekins, right?
Xavier Meekins. And I was in the corner, and Dan was in the opposite corner. And Schaefer, in game, Schaefer drives in, and Dan's man is covering him, and I'm open on the baseline, right beside him, and I'm calling for the ball, and I'm clapping for it. And I catch the ball, and I shoot it. And by the time I let it go, I said, "That's in." And I yelled it out. And then it dropped in, and I just punched. And I was like, there we go.
There we go. Overtime. Here we come.
Yeah.
And Dan, you mentioned that you can actually hear the "that's in" comment in the video, right?
Oh yeah, I'm right under the basket. You can hear it clearly in the video, but even people in the stands were saying, "Oh, we heard Tapa yell, oh, that's in." So, yeah.
Now, at that point, you've got momentum, you've got the energy going, you've taken their energy away. It's a road game. You guys were up at Snohomish, and they had the band and everything else there. Did you kind of know when you went to the huddle at the break there that we got this now? This is ours.
Oh yeah, well, I was just telling everyone in our huddle, like, it doesn't matter unless we finish it, so we have to finish this, or else it doesn't matter. Like, Tapa's great play, like, just wouldn't matter. But I knew, like, just by the look of our guys, we knew what we had to do and we had to win. And
it made you guys to where you're now 2-2 in the conference play, and this is a conference that's going to come right down to the wire in terms of who's going to get in and out for districts. So that was huge. Game earlier in the week, you lost to Shorecrest, but I know a Shorecrest team that I think is 11-1 on the season right now. Yeah. And Mustapha, I know you mentioned not necessarily a bad loss. You guys were right there in the game, right?
Yeah, we in the first quarter we got beat, and then second half and second quarter it was pretty even all throughout, and we just needed that last push to get us make it more of a contest, and it slipped away. But I'm pretty sure if we played them again, it would be different.
Now, Dan, is that one of those games where you feel like even though you lose, you feel like you gained something out of it, knowing that you went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams, maybe even in the state, and you hung right with them the whole time? Do you feel like that maybe gives you confidence moving forward, or gives the rest of the team that extra bit of confidence that maybe tells them that, hey, we can compete in this league?
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I mean, last year when we played these guys, they're obviously big. They got 2 6'8" guys. Mm-hmm. They out-rebounded us 55-22. Yes. And even last year, we kept that number up on our practice board just for motivation. And this whole week, right before we played them, our coaches were big on box out, box out, box out. And we ended up out-rebounding them by 2.
Wow.
Which is
huge turnaround.
Yeah. So credit to our coaches for making that a point of emphasis.
Very nicely done, guys. Yeah, going from 33 down in the rebounding total to a +2, not bad. Let me ask you guys about each other's game a little bit. I know it's always difficult if I ask a player, tell me what you do best. So rather than do that, I'm going to have you talk about one another. Mustapha, let me start out with you. What does Dan bring to the team, and what does he do well that's an asset to the Mavericks?
He brings a different type of leadership. He leads by example, and he does it very well. He runs the plays perfectly, and he is the best back cutter in Wesco. That's what we call him at practice, and he lived up to it.
Best back cutter in Wesco. That's quite the honor there.
Yeah.
Nice.
He knows how to get open, and he does it on a daily basis. And every game, he gets his shots up because of that. Mm-hmm. Gets to the line every time. Yeah, gets the job done.
Sure, that helps. And now what about Mustapha? What does he do that helps the Mavericks out?
Well, Tapa's obviously a clutch player. You saw it versus Snohomish with that big 3, but he's a great rebounder. He's obviously, with his frame, big defensive presence. He blocks a lot of shots, gets a lot of rebounds, and that's what we need from Tapa every day, and he's proven he can do it.
Now, some of your other teammates might be watching this too, so let's make sure we give a shout out to them. Who are some of the guys that if we go to watch a Mavericks game, who are we looking for? Who are the key contributors right now, guys?
Xavier Meekins, Drew Tingstad, Will Schaefer, Mason Harvey,
Justin Chambers.
Justin Chambers is a huge one.
Mhm.
And there's many. Everybody else
Zach Walsh
pours in. Zach Plumbers, he may not play, but he motivates us all. His presence is known on the bench and in timeouts everywhere, and he makes a humongous impact to all of us.
So definitely not a 2 or 3 player team. This is a huge collaborative effort, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we were missing in the beginning of the season. And I think after Wenatchee, we really got close and got to know each other. And things have turned for better.
So a little bit of a family environment, if you will, even for that matter.
Yeah.
Speaking of family environments, you guys both have sisters who have played in the program. You both have sisters that are currently playing basketball collegiately, right? So tell me a little bit about them and where they're at and how they're doing this year so far. I'll start with you, Dan.
Okay, so my oldest sister, she had the honor of playing with Nay, Tapa's sister, but she's currently playing basketball at Montana State University.
We should mention her first name.
Marguerite Barhoum.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's playing at Montana State. She's loving it. They actually won the Big Sky last season, so they got their rings and they were all happy about that. And then they went to the NIT, but then got upset. But she's loving it and she's loving playing basketball at the next level. So
Very nice.
yeah.
Now, what about you? Where's your sister at?
My sister's at Western. All I know is Western, but
Western Washington University, yeah.
Western Washington.
Not a bad school there.
Yeah,
Good program.
She first went to Northwestern in Louisiana for a D1 scholarship, and she transferred there to be closer to home. And she's redshirting this year, but she's practicing with the team.
Very nice and closer to the family, and I'm sure you guys are enjoying that a little bit too. Then, now it's early for you guys. You're both juniors. Is basketball something you'd like to pursue in college, or is it too early to think about that? Where are you guys at in that, as far as that's concerned?
Right now when I play, it's in the back of my mind, but my focus during game is just to win this game, and then whatever happens, happens.
Mm-hmm. Mustafa, what about you?
I'm definitely trying to play in college, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm trying to get my shots up and get my team dubs.
There we go. Let's see how they're doing and keep those wins coming too. What are you guys doing when you're not on the basketball court? What are you staying active in at school or just other activities, Dan?
I'm currently in FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So we preach God and play sports.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mustafa, what about you?
I'm in Black Student Union at my school, and we just talk about our awareness and everything, and how to be, better.
Very good. Both of you guys are active on the court and off the court. That's what we like to hear. And now, looking ahead for the Mavericks, your next 2 games are against Edmonds School District teams. You've got the Tuesday off this week. We've got an odd number of teams in our conference, so unfortunately, one team has to occasionally sit out, and it's you guys this week. So you have to wait a while. But then on Friday, you get Mount Lake Terrace at home, and then on the following Tuesday, you go to Linwood, I believe. Back-to-back games. So what is it like when you play those guys? Do you have friends, rivals on those teams? What's it like for you, Dan?
Well, one of my close friends, Kyrie Armstead, I play North City basketball with him in the spring, so I love playing against Kyrie. It brings a certain type of intensity to the game.
It's from Mount Lake Terrace, yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing against him just because I love Kyrie, and it's always more fun to play against people you know.
Mm-hmm. And what about the Linwood team? Do you know some of those guys too, or do you?
Oh yeah, I know Eli Edwards, Alton Hammond, and Bryce Millen. I grew up playing basketball with them. All great players, but even better people, so I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Always fun. And then what about you, Mustafa?
On Linwood, I know Yosef, and I don't know his last name.
Herbert Marion, yeah. He's having a nice year, yeah.
Yeah, he's a defensive monster.
Mm-hmm.
And Bryce, I know him also because we used to practice with each other up in Bellevue. And on Mount Lake Terrace, I know Kyrie, and I know Zeke, and who else?
So when you guys play these teams, it sounds like there's a lot of friends in there. So you don't want to really lose to your friends either, right? Because they won't let you hear the end of it. So it's competitive, I would imagine. It's going to be a competitive game on Friday for folks who want to get out to watch you guys play at the stable, I would think, right?
Oh yeah,
definitely. But first things first, you got practice this week, and you got school, and then we'll see how things turn out on Friday. But right now, these guys are enjoying their victory on Thursday. Again, overtime win. Nicely done, guys. Mustafa, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Dan, thank you very much.
thanks for having us.
And we will continue to follow the Mavericks all throughout the season.
Well, those two have some great on-court chemistry, and it's always fun to hear the sibling stories.
Yeah, especially for us covering the Edmonds School District, the alums, to hear what they're doing and how they're doing. And anytime they move off to college, we don't get to talk about them as much, so it's always nice to hear those stories and to see the younger siblings coming up behind them.
Yes, it is. Well, what basketball games do we have coming up this week to watch?
Got quite a few coming up. A few that I've noted here. On Friday, Mount Lake Terrace plays at Meadowdale, and you'll get a chance to watch those two gentlemen that were just in the room here with us. So encourage folks to go out to those two, that game. And then on Friday, on the girls' side of things, we have two games locally. Stanwood, who is currently undefeated, and looks like they might be a real contender for the state championship this year. They're going to be over at Linwood. One of those two teams will no longer be undefeated in league play after Friday night. And then we've got Meadowdale and Mount Lake Terrace over at Mount Lake Terrace High School. Two teams both looking for their first conference victories of the year. And that's a game that we will broadcast on SoundLiveSportsNetwork.com.
And that's a girls' game, right?
That is a girls' game,
right.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, very good. And then wrestling, there was some good performances over the weekend.
We did. We had the Everett Classic Wrestling Tournament up in Everett, and 5 of our wrestlers locally took first place in their weight classifications. 4 of them were from Edmonds-Woodway, go figure. We'll go ahead and run down the Warriors wrestlers first. Salehu Fateh won the 138-pound classification. Anthony Lindemood won the 160. Abduli Jada 170. Generous Ye won the 220. And then for Meadowdale, Liam Ball won the 182-pound classification.
Yeah, a lot of good success there.
I should also mention one other thing, too. Mount Lake Terrace picking up a team victory earlier in the week against Stanwood. So nice job.
Good.
Nice job, Hawks.
Good for them. Okay. And what about swimming?
Swimming, they're finally getting back in the pool. Not that they haven't been, but they're going to finally have meets coming up after 4 weeks off, I think it's been. But we've got pretty much all of our swim teams in action this week. Mount Lake Terrace is going to be at Linwood Pool. I should say Mount Lake Terrace and Edmonds-Woodway will both be at Linwood Pool on Tuesday and Thursday to take on Everett and Shorecrest. And then Meadowdale and Linwood are both heading up to the Forest Park Pool in Everett on Tuesday to take on Cascade. So plenty of action for our swimmers locally, and hopefully we'll be talking about them very soon too and seeing how they're doing as they get moving forward to the second half of their season.
Okay, good. Well, we hope you have a great week, and we'll be back again next week with another episode of This Week in High School Sports.